Today I want to talk to you about some of the things you can do with your scrap fabrics, whether they're very small or bigger pieces. Hi, I'm Kim Jamison Hurst, and you probably have lots of fabric scraps, and I want to show you some of the things you can do with them that you may not have thought of. So let's start off with some of the smaller scraps, and let's talk about what we can do with them. So you may keep really small pieces of fabric scraps, what we like to call crumbs, and you can stitch them together, as I've done in these examples, to make kind of new fabric, really. It's crumb fabric is what we call it. Now, if you're not familiar with this technique and what you can do with crumb fabric, make sure you check the description below because I have several videos on what you can do when you've made crumb fabric. So you can see there's lots of different fabrics in here, lots of different color and pattern going on. And then once you've made this fabric as big as you want, you can make different blocks out of it. So for example, you can slash and insert a little, what we call a stick of crumb fabric in here to make these little stick blocks and put them together into a quilt or other project. You can even make 9-patch blocks using these crumb fabric pieces. So you can see all the little tiny pieces in here. Almost looks like it's paper pieced, but it's really just all these pieces stitched together and then cut into smaller squares to assemble for a 9-patch project. So that's what you can do starting with some really small pieces. But what if you have scraps that are a little bit bigger? What can you do with them? Now, you might like to make embellishments on some of your projects. So if you make things like bags or pouches or containers or pin cushions like these, you might want to embellish them, and you can use your fabric scraps to do that too. And in this particular case, on both of these, I've made yo-yos to put in the middle. So you can make yo-yos of all different sizes. So depending on how big your fabric scrap is and how big your project is, you can make really big ones. They're really fun to stack together one on top of the other for making, even like a little Christmas tree or something like that. You can also make bigger ones with a button in the middle as a brooch. So that's kind of fun too. So another use for your fabric scraps. So if you have fabric scraps that are a bit bigger, especially if you have long pieces of fabric, you can use those to make strip pieced or string pieced blocks like these here. Very easy to make, and you can make all kinds of incredible projects with them, like this Diamond Bright quilt. And I know you can't see the whole thing here, but you can see these strip piece blocks have been put together in a certain way to create different designs. This project here, this quilt called Diamond Bright, is actually a pattern I designed for our Wrangle Your Scraps challenge that we hold in July every year. And in that challenge, we actually get our scraps all sorted out, all organized, and all stored. And then, of course, we want to make something with them. So this is one of the patterns that's included free with that challenge to make the Diamond Bright project. Now, I already showed you how you can make strip or string piece blocks with your fabric scraps, especially the longer ones, but you can make other kinds of scrap blocks too, like these ones here, which are made with a stitch and flip technique. So I have lots of other videos on my YouTube channel about making different types of blocks using the stitch and flip technique, so be sure you take a look at my channel to see those. These ones here are using more than one. Typically with your stitch and flip, you have one piece of fabric that you put on and just flip it over. These ones I've got have 2 on them, so that's just a little bit of extra interest there. And again, depending on how big your fabric scrap is, you don't really need very much for these pieces here. You could also make a wonky stitch and flip block too, so you have a bit bigger scrap in the center, but you need some smaller ones on the edges, and it doesn't matter what size they are actually. You would just put them on and stitch them and flip them, and then you get this type of a wonky look. So you can have lots of fun with those type of blocks as well. When you think of fabric scraps, you might not think about leftover binding pieces. So typically we have some binding left over at the end of our quilt projects, or at least we hope we do. We don't want to run short on binding. And if you do have extra binding pieces, I tend to keep these separate from other fabric scraps because what I like to do is to stitch them together to make some new fun multi-fabric, multicolored binding. So if you want to stitch these together, I suggest you do it with a mitered seam. It's a little bit less noticeable. Depends on the colors you're using. Of course, if you're switching between fabrics like these, you're going to notice it anyway, but it's still kind of a nice effect on the binding. So when you have your leftover binding ends, consider stitching them together to make a new fun multi-fabric, multicolor binding for your next quilt. So I hope that's given you some ideas of how you can really start another project or make pieces for another quilt project with your fabric scraps, no matter how big or small they may be. Thanks for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps to get it in front of viewers just like you. And remember to subscribe and hit the bell so you'll be notified the next time I release a new video. And before you go, check out these videos I've included just for you. For more helpful quilting information, go to www.chatterboxquilts.com. Oops. There that goes.